You stand guard on a high stone wall under a moonless night. In the distance, beyond the torchlight, you think you see movement. Your bow is drawn, heart thumping, every muscle tensed for an enemy that never fully reveals itself. You're alone on these battlements, surrounded by silence and the distant howl of wind. This is the world your mind still lives in, a world where danger could strike at any moment, where fear keeps you alive. This medieval battle scene isn't history, it's a metaphor for your life. No, you may not carry a sword or wear armor to the office, but inside, something primal is always on alert. A part of you is forever scanning the shadows for threats, just as your ancestors did. You inherited their watchfulness, their anxiety, their readiness to fight or flee. The castle and the war may be invisible, but you carry them within you every day. Why? Because for millions of years, fear was our survival code. The ones who feared the rustle in the bushes lived to see another day. The ones who didn't became something else's lunch. Your DNA is written in the ink of those who survived by fear. That quick jolt of your heart at a loud noise, the tightness in your gut when you walk down a dark street. These are echoes of ancient alarms. Your body doesn't know that the wolves and tigers are gone. It only knows to be ready. Fast forward to now. The threats look different, but the script remains the same. Instead of wild beasts, it's a stranger's face, a boss's criticism, a lover's quarrel. Your mind reacts as if the stakes are life and death. A harsh word from someone you care about triggers the same cascade of stress hormones that a stalking predator would have long ago. The fear is no longer about survival in the jungle, but it feels just as visceral, just as real. Look closely at how you move through the world. You may not label it fear, but it's there, hiding behind other names. Stress, frustration, insecurity. Often these are fears in disguise. Why do you get angry when someone cuts you off in traffic? It's the animal in you, growling when it feels threatened or disrespected. Why do you lie awake worrying about a meeting tomorrow? Because some ancient part of your brain believes your social standing is as crucial as life or death. So you do what humans learn to do. You protect yourself. You put on a persona that seems confident or indifferent or agreeable, whatever keeps you safe. That persona is your ego, and its job is to shield the soft core of you from harm. The ego is like that suit of armor on the battlefield. It's heavy and it's wearing, but you believe you need it to survive. Every time you pretend to be someone you are not, every time you hold back your true feelings, you're raising your shield, fortifying the walls. Think about it. How often do you hold your tongue because you're afraid to offend? How often do you keep your deepest feelings to yourself because you're afraid of being judged or hurt? These little hesitations, these little defenses, they add up. Brick by brick, they build a wall around you. You smile and say, "I'm fine," when you're not. Because letting someone in feels riskier than enduring the loneliness. After all, if they never see the real you, they can't reject the real you, right? This is how fear keeps us separated. We mistrust before we trust. We assume the worst to avoid being caught off guard. It happens between individuals, friends, lovers, colleagues, and it scales up to entire societies. Tribes, nations, cultures, each can become its own fortress of us versus them. Even now, look at the news. So much of the world's anger and violence boils down to groups of people afraid of each other, afraid of change, afraid of loss. And even in peaceful times, fear finds you in isolation. Think of the quiet suffering of loneliness that so many experience. You sit in your room, craving connection, yet not reaching out. Why? Perhaps you're afraid you won't fit in, or that you'll be rejected, or that you're not worth loving. So you stay in your safe little bubble, intact but alone. It's as if each of us sits in a solitary tower, watching others from a distance, unsure how to bridge the gap. Does any of this feel familiar? Be honest with yourself. Have you ever stared at the phone, wanting to call someone, but held back because maybe they don't really want to hear from me? These subtle fears rule more of our lives than we care to admit. Open your eyes. The fortress that kept the monsters out has also locked us in. Fear, our ancient protector, often doesn't know when to stop protecting. It doesn't see the difference between a life-threatening danger and an uncomfortable conversation. To the fear-driven mind, every unknown is a potential enemy. It promises safety but delivers isolation. The walls you built to guard your heart have also become your prison. We became experts at surviving, but novices at living. We've been so busy looking out for threats that we rarely stop to question if there might be a better way to live. Is this truly all we are? Nervous animals clinging to the battlements, waiting for the next attack? Or is there a way to climb down from these walls and actually meet the world, not as combatants, but as kin? There is an alternative, a path that moves in the opposite direction of fear. And in our modern era, one voice in particular spoke clearly about it. Ram Dass. If fear is our inherited script, Ram Dass offered an improvisation, a way to step off the stage of this ancient drama and discover a new role for ourselves. Ram Dass, born Richard Alpert, was not always the gentle sage many came to know. He began as a successful psychologist and professor, someone who had everything our society says could make you feel secure: status, intellect, influence. Yet, he felt something was missing. He traveled to India on a fateful journey and underwent a transformation. He met a guru who saw straight through his ego, and in that mirror, Richard Alpert began to fade. He was now given a new name, Ram Dass, meaning servant of God, and with it, a new understanding of who he was, beyond the fearful, striving little self. Ram Dass returned to the West, carrying a simple but profound message, that beneath all our roles and masks, we are souls, pure consciousness, loving awareness. He often talked about the ego as the somebody we think we are, full of plans and fears and desires, but he urged people to slip out of that heavy costume, even just for a moment, and rest in what he called the soul, or the heart, or pure awareness. In that state, he said, you realize you are connected with everyone and everything. The walls separating you from others start to crumble. He spoke of life and relationships as a dance of souls. To him, every encounter was an opportunity to either feed the ego or nourish the soul. When you feed the ego, you strengthen fear and separation. You take things personally, you judge, you defend. When you nourish the soul, you strengthen love and unity. You listen, you empathize, you see yourself in the other. Ram Dass's teachings often boil down to trading fear for love, moment by moment, thought by thought. One of Ram Dass's well-known phrases was "Be here now." On the surface, it sounds simple, stay present. But think about what it really means in this context. Fear is rarely about the present moment. It's almost always worrying about the next potential danger or reliving an old pain. To be here now is to step out of the time machine of anxious thoughts and into the reality that right here, right now, you're actually okay. In the present, you can actually meet another person as they are, without the projections of fear. He also often said, I am loving awareness. It was like a mantra for shifting identity, from the frightened guard to a compassionate witness. Loving awareness means you see the full picture with clarity and love combined. You see your own fear without judgment, and you see the fear in others with compassion. In that state, how can you hate or mistrust? The other is no longer other. It's a part of the same one life, just wearing a different form. Imagine the guard on the fortress wall again, but now he's coming down to open the gate. He has recognized an old friend outside, rather than an enemy. This is what happens when perception shifts. from ego to soul. The enemy you feared might just be another fearful soul, not actually out to harm you. By putting down the weapon first, you give both of you a chance to see the truth, that at the deepest level, you're on the same side. Ram Dass's life became a testament to this transformation. He spent years teaching, writing, and simply being with people in a way that made them feel seen and safe. In one story, he sat with a distraught woman who had lost her child, and instead of platitudes, he shared in her pain as if it were his own. He didn't fear her grief or try to fix it. He embraced it, and in that space of love, real healing began. He could do that because he wasn't meeting her as two separate egos, one pitying the other. He was meeting her in that place of oneness, where fear had no foothold, where only love remained. And it's not just saints and sages. Ordinary people have moments of extraordinary love that transcend fear all the time. Perhaps you felt it in a crisis, when something terrible happened and you forgot yourself and rushed in to help. You didn't stop to calculate the risks or protect your ego. You just acted out of love, as if a deeper instinct took over. In those moments, you glimpse what's possible when fear steps aside. Imagine a natural disaster strikes your town. In the aftermath, the power is out, streets are flooded, chaos is everywhere. And yet, neighbors who barely knew each other yesterday are suddenly teaming up, sharing food, checking on the elderly, keeping each other warm. In the face of real crisis, something beautiful can emerge. People forget the superficial divides. Their shared humanity comes forward. The instinct to protect not just oneself but each other awakens. That is love overruling fear, turning a disaster into an unexpected reunion of the human family. Think of two people from opposite sides of a long-standing conflict. Perhaps two veterans who once aimed weapons at each other. Imagine them years later, sitting down to share their stories. At first, there is tension and suspicion. It's hard to drop that guard. But as they speak, they start to really hear each other. They hear the fear and the loss on both sides. At some point, one of them realizes the person across from him is not an enemy at all, but a reflection of himself. Tears well up. A handshake turns into an embrace. Enemies transform into brothers. That is the power of oneness in action, of love dissolving even the deepest divisions. These might sound like rare miracles, but they reveal a truth that applies to you and me too. When we truly encounter one another beyond our roles and fears, the natural response is love. It feels like a miracle only because we usually live behind walls. Take down those walls, and love flows like a river through a valley. Just as water finds its way when obstacles are removed. Reconciliation, connection, understanding, they aren't manufactured. They emerge when fear no longer blocks them. Now let's reconcile these ideas with that evolutionary story we started with. It's fair to ask, if we are biologically wired for fear, where does this capacity for profound love come from? Are we defying our nature by choosing love? The answer is both no and yes. No, because love and cooperation have always been part of our survival too. Families, tribes, communities only thrived by caring for each other. And yes, because in moments of love, we often transcend the immediate self-interest that evolution ingrained in us. Think about it. Evolution gave us fear to protect the individual, but it also gave us empathy to protect the group. We have both potentials inside. Modern science might frame it as our fight or flight instincts versus our social bonding instincts. Spiritual teachings frame it as ego versus soul, or fear versus love. Different languages for the same truth. As humans, we walk on the knife edge between our lower and higher impulses, and we are capable of knowing this and guiding ourselves. This is where consciousness comes in. You are not a prisoner of your biology. You are the awareness witnessing it. Yes, the old fear will flare up. It's automatic, and it might always be to some degree. But now you can catch it. You can notice. There's my fear response, trying to protect me. In that moment of noticing, you become more than the fear. You become the parent to your inner child, the master of your inner animal. Nature put the fear in you, but nature also gave you the key to rise above it, self-awareness. Each time you recognize fear within you and choose not to act from it blindly, you rewrite the script. You prove that being human is not just to follow a script written by survival, but to author your own story. It's in those small moments, taking a breath instead of shouting back in anger, extending trust to someone new, forgiving someone who hurt you, that you step out of the old skin. You step into what Ram Dass and so many others have pointed to, the larger self that is connected, courageous, and kind. No, fear doesn't vanish completely. Life will always have uncertainty and danger. But imagine fear as a loud noise in a big echoing chamber. When your world is small and walled in, that noise is deafening, it consumes you. But when you open up your world, knock down some walls, expand your sense of self, that same noise dissipates in the open air. It's still there, but it no longer defines the atmosphere. Love creates space. It's like opening all the windows in a dark, musty house. Suddenly there's fresh air and light, and the shadows don't look so menacing anymore. We're coming to a moment of clarity now. Yes, you have a creature inside you that gets scared. That's okay. But now you know of a higher self that can hold that creature gently and say, it's all right. You don't have to run or fight right now. You get to choose which voice to listen to, the trembling guard shouting warnings, or the wise, calm soul urging compassion. This knowledge may feel like a double-edged sword. It's revealing uncomfortable things about your nature, but it's also illuminating your power. What will you do with this understanding? This knowledge is a light in a dark room. It shows you the bars of the cage you didn't know you were in, and it also shows the key in your hand. It is a sobering truth. Much of your life you've been driven by an inherited fear, but it's also a liberating truth. You don't have to be. You can feed a different part of you now. This knowledge may be dark, but it gives you the power to choose which side of yourself to feed. We may not control the design of our brains, but we can defy our programming, not with force, but with awareness and choice. In a world that often rewards cynicism and division, choosing empathy is a quiet rebellion, and that rebellion gives your life meaning. Now that you see the game for what it is, how will you play? Don't let this understanding fade away when the video ends. If you stay still, you'll fall back asleep. And if you slip back into unconscious routine, you know what awaits you. Another life on autopilot, with fear quietly pulling the strings. Before we close, take a moment to leave one sentence in the comments. Not a reaction, not a slogan. One brutally honest sentence that marks the moment you stopped lying to yourself. Disappear, live your life, and when you're ready, come back. I'll be here, where I always am, on the edge, where fear ends and love begins.